if you look at Russia right now, then you will see two pictures. One I call the facade, and the second picture I call what's happening behind the facade, the inner picture. The facade, well, you can find the facade everywhere. It's, of course, on Russian TV. If you turn on to any channel, you will see fairly normal picture. Russia continues to live normal life. The Russians continue to live normal life. Yes, there are some difficulties, challenges, they say, but not big ones. Those challenges are offset a great deal by wins of Russia and the Russians and the society and the economy. And there are plenty of those. That, if you watch Russian TV. Then you turn onto YouTube, you might see, well, you definitely will see quite a few bloggers who are in Russia. They just go around and film, do live streams, and their picture is not that bad either. They go to shopping malls, they go to large food stores, and they show. I mean, their cameras don't lie. You can see plenty of food, plenty of goods, no shortages of anything. Yes, prices are higher than they were 1 year ago. 20, 50, some things are 100% higher. Inflation, it means inflation is up. But things are not too bad. It's just, if you look closely, you will notice one thing that's very disturbing. The amount of people who shop at the shopping malls. You compare to the amount of people from a year ago, hoo-hoo. But everything else is pretty much normal. Yes, there are some stores closed, but the shopping malls are still open, people are still there, lights are on, the heat isn't like inside, it's warm, everything's normal. Then, if you teleport into Moscow or St. Petersburg, then you walk around on the streets, you most likely will see a country that continues living. People rush to work, kids go to school and so forth. If you go outside Moscow and St. Petersburg, you will see a different picture. But two major cities continue to live life, to have life. It's not Ukraine, in Ukraine, it's completely different. So what I'm doing today is I am showing you, I'm giving you a little peek, a little walkthrough of what is happening behind the facade. For the past 10 months, I've been telling you that Russian economy is set for, at first I thought it was a tsunami, now I think it's complete collapse. And, that's on one side. On the other side, Russia keeps on living life. And the Russians still have jobs, well, not all of them. And there are fewer Russians than there were before, but, you can see that life is somewhat normal. So, but there are already signs that something is wrong. So I've been telling you all those months, right? But now I was talking the talk. But now I'm gonna walk the walk. I'm gonna give you the signs. Because economy works, it has a great deal of inertia. Okay, it does not fall down overnight. It takes a few months, perhaps a couple years in some instances. But let's take a look. What is happening in December and what kind of signs, economic indicators of nearing collapse? Howdy everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia. I give you latest developments, news, my takes and opinions on what is happening in Russia. Usual Russia given you by the unusual Russian. What I'm trying to do today is to not teaching you a lesson or two about economy. I've done that before, but I would like to explain in plain words so everyone would understand what I say and what effect the facts have on the economy and what kind of indicators would they show. Without further ado, let's start with number one. I think it's very, very important indicator. And I'm going to be talking about loans. How are banks doing? Well, not really banks. There are two types of loans in Russia: regular bank loans and microloans. And it's two completely different sectors of the economy, of, well, financial industry. Bank loans, well, you know what they are. They're very, very standard in Russia. Mortgages, car loans, personal loans, credit card debts, credit cards. And there is the second type of loans, microloans. Microloans are given by regular companies with special licenses, and it's easy to get a license. You don't have to be a bank to do that. The difference is pretty striking. First of all, microloans, the amount of money that a person can be loaned is much less than from what you get in a bank. Used to be up to 1,000 rubles, $30. Now I think it's up to $100 or something like that. And listen to this. Banks, when they give you a loan, their interest depends on central bank. Whatever central bank sets, banks cannot jump higher, So right now, if you are out to get a mortgage, you'd probably pay around 7% annual interest. But if you go and get a microloan, let's say you get $100, you're going to be paying up to 1% a day. That's 365% annual. When someone defaults a loan, usually a bank uses legal procedures. There's a special department, and they start, pressuring you. They start getting you money back, their money back from you. But if you default a microloan, then those people go after you ruthlessly. Okay, they don't care about rules, regulations, laws. They just want their money. They remind us of loan sharks, and its classical form. Well, as of today, 7 million of microloans have been defaulted. It means that 7 million of households in Russia have been affected. In the last 90 days, there has been 1.5 million increase in defaulted microloans. What does it mean in plain language? Who gets the microloans? Have I ever gotten a microloan? No, because I'm not crazy. I'm not that desperate, I would say, because I know that I'm gonna pay an arm and a leg in interest. Okay, I don't like bank loans, but there's a world of a difference between a microloan and a bank loan. So I would never, under any circumstances, would get myself bank loan, microloan. And who gets them? People who are not doing well, who need money to eat, who need money to get by until the next payday, who need money to, desperately for something. And we're not talking much. We're talking about $100. And usually microloans are not given for years. They're given for a few days, for a week, for a couple of weeks, not even for a month, because it's crazy. It's too expensive. 30% every single day, 1%, that amounts to 30%. You take $100 in 1 month, you must give back $130, okay? It means that people who are on the very bottom of Russian economy, who don't have much money to get by day to day, that amount of people has increased tremendously, and they've started defaulting the loans. And these defaults are not good, because if you default a bank loan, That's one thing, you can declare bankruptcy and all, but if you declare microloan, the sharks will be coming after you. Okay, that's not good. It shows that there are so many people who are not educated well, who are manual labor, manual workers, unskilled workers. They are hit by this economy decline first, and they are being hit. And this number is telling us that a huge part of Russian society is not doing well, and the numbers are increasing fast. Okay, so number one is very important indicator for me. Okay, that's real people on the ground sort of thing, in real life indicator. Well, number two, let's look at the big banks. I just told you about microloans. That's small businesses. I can open a company and start giving people out money, but I'm not a bank. Let's talk about big banks. In 10 months, combined loss of all Russian banks has amounted to 400 billion rubles. That's according to the central bank data, and by the end of the year, additional capitalization of 700 billion rubles will be needed by Russian banks, commercial banks, from the Russian central bank, from the Russian government. If that additional capitalization is not provided, many banks will go under. I'm sorry. And I think that money will be given to them because Russian government wants to keep financial system stable as possible, because that's the foundation. Now, let me tell you, in 15 years, I don't remember of Russian banks losing money. They recorded huge incomes every single year. Banks in Russia don't lose money, plain and simple. In 2022, they have lost 400 billion rubles so far. The number was even worse, 1.5 trillion. It's rebounded in August and September. But we're going to see for the numbers of 12 months for 2022. Just so to let you know, in 2021, the previous year, the annual profit, the combined profit of all commercial banks was 2.4 trillion rubles. Now to 400 billion rubles in loss. And number two is also very important indicator, because banks, they kind of show us, they don't lie. They show us black and white whether people do transactions or they don't. Whether companies work, pay, receive payments, create products, sell them, and so forth, or they don't. The more transactions there are, the more money banks make. So these numbers are not so good for the economy. Number three, the very recent news that just came out, the European Union suggested that all countries, I think 27 countries that trade Russian oil, they suggested a cap on Russian oil. And the cap, countries will not be able to pay more than $60 per barrel to Russia for Russian oil, no matter what the price of oil in the world market is. So basically, it's terrible news for Russia, and it's some kind of a good news, because at least European countries are saying, well, we'll be able to buy it from Russia. So Russia will get some kind of income, okay? Not in the hundreds of dollars like it used to before, to receive for every barrel, but 60 is actually, it's a huge blow to the economy, but the ship will not sink. It'll be balancing on the verge of sinking, but it will not sink. I think. And of course, the experts of natural gas, that's the numbers of Gazprom, for 10 months of 2022 have fallen by 44%. That is huge, and this is not good. This is not economy indicator, but that number affects the economy in a great deal. So, number 4, let's talk about the industry, the industrial index. Well, what is the industrial index? Basically, it's comparing manufacturing or extraction of minerals in the country with previous periods. Okay. Rostov, which is Russian statistics agency, has just released numbers, indicators for Russian industry. And these numbers are for 10 months, but I'm going to be concentrating on month of October, and I will be telling you how industry has performed in October. Okay, different sectors of the industry. If we're talking about industrial production index aggregate, for the entire year, then according to Rostov, it's down by 2.6%. And most independent experts don't believe that number. They're saying from 5 to 7%. It means, if we take all the industries, all the production, combine them, we'll see that there's a huge decrease of manufacturing in Russia. Lost jobs, unpaid taxes, lost taxes, unemployment rising, more people looking for jobs and so forth. That's not good. That's the foundation of economy of any country. Well, what do we have in October? We have 2 winners. 3 winners, actually. Believe it or not, there are industries, the sectors of industries that actually have recorded growth in October. They are making of apparel or apparel manufacturing, clothing manufacturing, has grown by 11.9%. And for the first time in history of Russia, at least what I know, I have not heard that before, there's a new indicator, metal goods. They don't say what kind of goods. They usually, in the past, broke down, machines and so forth. But now they're just saying metal goods. The growth is 4.7%, and electronics 18.3%. Well, guess what these things are? Clothing, metal goods, and electronics. I think you guessed right. That's metal goods. They most likely will end up in Ukraine. Apparel, clothing, most likely will end up on people in Ukraine, who are coming from Russia to Ukraine temporarily. And electronics, the same. But there are, of course, losers, and the losers are pretty much every single sector besides clothing, metal goods, and electronics. They are. Let's talk about the extraction of minerals in Russia. Huge, because Russia relies basically half of Russian budget comes from metals, exports, natural gas and oil exports. So what is happening right now? Coal extraction has fallen by 3.3% in the month of October. Metal ores and extraction has fallen by 7%, huge. And oil and gas by 3.6%. That's not how much Russia has sold less to other countries. That's different. This is how much has been produced in Russia, extracted. Okay, on top of that, we are selling much less now. We extract much less. Manufacturing sector. Car manufacturing has fallen by 45.2%. Well, I've made videos before about car manufacturing. It's pretty much non-existent anymore in Russia. Timber processing, huge. Russia has lots of wood, trees. They're cut, they're processed, and they're exported to all over the world. China, the West. Well, timber processing has fallen down by 19.7%, and pharma manufacturing, that basically manufacturing of drugs, has fallen down by 8.5%. In inflation right now, the official Rostov data is 12.3% annual inflation. But in reality, if you go to a store and you look at the real life inflation, you will see it's much higher than that. Moving on, number 5. Now, this is completely rumors, okay? But as we say in Russia, there is no fire without smoke. So it's just smoke, okay? And if there's fire, we're going to learn very soon in December, in this month. And this is payday delays or paycheck delays. You see, Russia has a huge number of employees that are paid by and employed and paid by the Russian government. Not local governments, not private companies, but Russian government, federal government. They are teachers, school teachers, university teachers, kindergarten teachers, doctors, police force, prosecutors, bureaucrats, local administrations. They also get paid by the federal government. They get money from the federal government. KGB, of course, the army, the customs people, different committees, politicians, you name it. There are so many people who get paid by the government. So there are rumors. I'm not going to tell you which regions, but there are a couple regions. I have seen letters. I'm not sure whether they're fake or not. I tend to believe they're not, but we'll see. The letters were coming from high top officials to the directors, principals of schools and kindergartens. And the letters said something like, you know what? You got to understand what's going on in the country right now. It's such a hard time. We're facing, war from the collective West. We're being threatened by NATO. We're fighting NATO in Ukraine and so forth. The usual propaganda stuff. And then at the end of the letter, the principals were strongly advised, to talk to the school teachers and kindergarten teachers about accepting payment delays, because country is going through hard times and lots of resources are given to the military, and therefore we need to wait a little bit. We need to tighten our belts, so to speak. We need to understand. We need to support this decision. And we need to be proud of it. Well, they need to be proud of it. So, again, I'm not sure whether it's fake or not. I tend to believe it, but we will see very soon. Because if people start getting their payments delayed, that they're not going to sit still. They're going to be protesting. At least the information about that will go all over internet. So that is a very early sign, very disturbing sign, that the government is actually running out of money to pay employees. And you know what happens when you run out of money? You start prioritizing. You set your priorities. And what is the priority number one for the government right now? Of course, military. What's going on in Ukraine. What do they need to do first? They need to increase salaries to cops, state police, KGB. So these folks will maintain being loyal to the government and, of course, to the army. So everything for the win, as they say in the Russian government. That is early indicator, and it's not a good one. Number 6. Loss of people. This is not an early indicator, but this is a direct direct influence on the economy. There are two types of losses that Russia has sustained. First loss is real loss. Russian men have been killed, a certain number. Again, we're given by different numbers by different people. I know all the numbers, so keep your opinions for yourself about how many Russians have been killed. Please, because you start bombarding me with numbers. I know. Okay. There's also official statistics from Russian Ministry of Defense, and I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. Okay. The second type of loss, people loss, is exodus. So many people have left Russia. Again, it's really hard to say how many to pinpoint because there's no statistics. Russians who leave, they don't say anyone. Like, they don't tell anyone that they leave for good. No one collects statistics. But today, I've heard the number 2 million men have left Russia at this point. I've heard 1 million before. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, but it's definitely over 1 million. Just here in Tashkent, from what I'm seeing around me, over 35,000 people. And it's really easy to calculate. What do Russians do when they come to Tashkent? You know, they catch their breath and they start getting into the groups because it's easier to survive in a group. It's easier to get help, support. It's easier to get knowledge. And there are groups, I know them. In total, there are 35,000 people, active members of those groups. Some people look for schools for kids. Some people go do sports, jog together, Some people go drink together, like 3,000 or 4,000 people out there drinking. If you want to go and drink, you just have to look at the Telegram message, say, okay, where are they? And they're doing live reports. Okay, you just go and join to them, and things like that. So you understand. There are about 35,000 people. And perhaps there are people who are not active. They're not in groups. They're just kind of loners. So just Tashkent. And Uzbekistan is not just Tashkent. And there are so many other countries. Georgia, Armenia, Kazakhstan. There are over 400,000 Russians there. It's a huge country, by the way. And what is happening now, Russians start leaving Uzbekistan. I'm seeing it with my own eyes and going to other places. So, like I said many times before, Uzbekistan and Tashkent is just a transit for them. They stay here for a few weeks, couple months, and they leave. Thailand, Indonesia, the USA, Canada, Europe, Australia. This is not destination. This is a transit. So loss of people is a huge prerequisite for economic disaster. There will simply be not enough people to work. That's it. Taxes, work positions non-filled. So much expertise has left. Doctors, lawyers, scientists, college professors. I've seen them all. They're around me. Okay, huge loss in numbers and intellectual loss. Moving on. Number 7. Really not a huge indicator in terms of indicators that make news, but very important one, nevertheless. Leasing of heavy machinery. In order to do things, you need machinery. For construction, for agriculture, for transport, for logistics, you need heavy machinery. You need trucks, cranes, combine harvesters, and so forth. And usually, the machinery is leased, at least here in Russia. And the leasing dropped by 13.6%. And that is very optimistic number. I think the real number is much higher. And then we're going to learn that in a couple of months. That is very important indicator for the economy. Number 8. What's actually great indicator. I want to take it very seriously because it was given very recently by the man with impeccable reputation. He said that the level of poverty in Russia has dropped by 10.5% in third quarter of 2022 alone. And that man with impeccable reputation is Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin, Russia's president. So he has officially told us that there are 10.5% of people less who are in poverty. On one side, we have official data coming from a banking sector saying that there have been defaults on loans, and microloans have registered huge number of defaults, over 7 million. On the other hand, that's people who are basically in poverty. Okay, they take out loans and default. In the last 90 days, that's third quarter, there has been more than 1.5 million defaults. Vladimir, but no worries. That's okay, because Vladimir Putin told us that the poverty in the same quarter has dropped by 10.5%. People must have moved from, this below poverty to they became rich, from rags to riches. Of course, he never lies. He told us that we would never attack Ukraine before the 24th of February. Then he told us that no conscripts were in Ukraine. Then he told us there would be no mobilization under any circumstances in Russia. Well, he told us all wonderful things. And another wonderful thing he's telling us now is the poverty has dropped. Ahoy! Let's celebrate. Fantastic news. And central bank, to summarize, central bank has just released data, and experts of central banks, Russia's central bank, are saying that the economic indicators in 2022 show that overall Russian economy has been thrown back by 4 years. That's the official, beautified opinions and statistic and data. In reality, I think, it's really hard for me to say, but this is not going to be objective opinion, but subjective, very subjective. I think it's much more than 4 years back. I think it's around a decade. And as of 1st of December, I think every single month that passes right now brings us back, throws us back by years. And this is where we are standing right now. So not only I talk the talk, I walk the walk. I have just given you the numbers, the real indicators, and they don't lie. They show the true state of Russian economy and the dynamics. That is even more important. What is the dynamics? And the dynamics they're not good. I continue saying that in first quarter of 2023, we're facing an economic disaster in Russia. And this has been my message to you. Thank you so very much for giving me a chance, coming and joining me and listening. I'm going to turn on the comments. Please let me know what do you think. Give me feedback, do the usual. And before I do that, I would like to let you know that starting tomorrow, I'm going to be I will try at least, doing live streams in Telegram. I have not done it before, but I will do very short streams, 5 to 10 minutes, on the topics of behind the scenes of what I do, how I prepare for my live streams, daily live streams, and what I usually do in my everyday life. So if you have not joined my Telegram channel, please do so. It's Inside Konstantin's Russia.